Yo, Mavs fam, what day is it? It's game day. Let's go. We've got about 90 minutes before tip-off. We're going to see at the American Airlines Center tonight your Dallas Mavericks against the Phoenix Suns. Okay, some could argue that kind of used to be a rivalry whenever we had Luka. Maybe not as much anymore, but as per usual, with our game previews, we're going to look at a historical context of the matchup, right? And by the way, it's only regular season data that we're looking at whenever I'm doing these, okay? We all know what happened last time we saw the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs. Literally one of the most epic moments in franchise history. You know the whole meme, Luka Doncic smiling over at Devin Booker. It was hilarious. I think we won that game by like 3,900 points or something like that. It was epic. But I'm going to get right to it today. This is Your Mavs, a Dallas Mavericks podcast where all are welcome, but y'all better behave. And don't let me skip the intro. I am Ethan, the advisor Clayton. Welcome to the party. Let's talk about it. And by the way, before I get too deep into it, it's November 12th. And Nico Harrison is still fired. Okay. I took a little bit of a somber / triggered approach to the episode yesterday. I feel a lot better today. There is hope. Hope springs eternal here. Whether or not you agree with the Adelson family continuing to run the ship or Patrick Dumont making governor type of decisions, it doesn't matter. We have a basketball game that we need to get hyped over. And something I take very, very personally as your podcast host and lifelong Mavs fan, an anonymous player for the Dallas Mavericks said the other day that they kind of prefer playing on the road right now because it doesn't feel like Mavs fans are rooting for us to win. That ends now. We are rooting for them to win so hard. We can win the next, 73 games in a row. I don't know what that will do to the fan base. We will not get Luka Doncic back, right? Regardless of who gets fired or what trade is made, we're not getting Luka back unless he decides, in a free agency type of situation, maybe 10, 12 years down the road. Maybe he wants to retire here. I don't know. So let's talk about what's happening right here, right now. All right, first off, you know me, I like to look at the all-time record. Tonight will be the 180th matchup all-time between the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. And not a great record, okay? It's not an overwhelming odds either way, but listen, the Phoenix Suns have won 100 of the 179 that have been played so far. So we got some catching up to do starting tonight, okay? And over the last 10 games in the regular season, we have a 500 record, 5-5. So maybe we start to see the tide turn a little bit and that the Mavericks really start to own this franchise like we did in the playoffs a couple seasons ago. That is what I'm here to see. But there's more. Let's look at some of the highest and lowest scoring games in the rivalry history. By now, you know me, I like to look at the highest points total and the lowest points total in rivalry history. So let's look at that real quick. Back in March of 2023, the Phoenix Suns defeated the Mavericks 130-126. So 256 points is the highest combined total between the two teams in rivalry history. And the lowest scoring game, also a Phoenix Suns victory, 89-75 back in December of 1997. So total of 164 points. And if my memory serves me correctly, 1997 was a really, really low point in franchise history for the Dallas Mavericks. Okay? We were not good. It was after the experiment of having Jason Kidd, Jim Jackson, and Jamal Mashburn on the same team. That experiment failed, right? There was the whole drama with Toni Braxton where apparently she was dating more than one of our players at the same time. They started butting heads. The product on the basketball floor was not great. So we just kind of blew it up. We blew it up. And I think that 97 season, if my memory serves me correctly, was the impetus for us making a big trade, a big splash trade that brought Michael Finley to the Dallas Mavericks from Phoenix. Okay. And by the way, Michael Finley is one of our two interim GMs now that Nico Harrison has been fired. So that I thought that was a fun little tidbit. Okay. So those are a couple facts for you. All right. And next, I'm gonna just throw a quick factoid at you about the highest individual scoring performance in rivalry history. And I'm just gonna make it so dramatic. I'm gonna make you sit on the edge of your seat before I tell you. You're probably already starting to the wheels are starting to spin in your brain. It was a very recent game. It was, again, back in 2023. The highest individual scoring performance in rivalry history is none other than Luka Doncic. Okay. It was the day after Christmas back in 2023. He dropped the 50 burger on their heads. 50 burger. I hope we don't see anybody score 50 tonight. The reason I say that is because I don't think it's likely that anybody from the Mavericks would score that much, right? And so if somebody did, it would be someone like Devin Booker, okay? Please, please, please. I don't want to see that happen tonight, okay? So again, tonight will be the 180th matchup. Phoenix has the overwhelming win record over us, 100-79. The last 10 games, we are 5-5 in the series. So I think overall, this is a pretty fun rivalry between the two teams. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of trades that have happened. There have been some really heated playoff matchups that have happened, as recently as 3 years ago. Again, the epic meme that came out of that playoff series where Luka is just grinning ear to ear, looking Devin Booker directly in his eyes. I think he was peering directly into his soul and be like, I own you. And then all the memes came out of that basically Luka is Devin Booker's dad. Okay. I'm going to stop talking about Luka. I got really nostalgic there for a second, but anyway, let's talk some bold predictions about what I think we're going to see tonight. You can see on the scroll at the bottom, I have updated the starting lineup once again. I was very much in favor and continue to be in favor of Brandon Williams starting at the point guard. Why? We need buckets. We need buckets from the opening whistle, right? We don't need to wait 5-6 minutes. By the way, I think the tradition of Mavs fans standing until we score our first point, I think that's dumb. I think it's lame. I don't think we need to do that anymore. But people don't listen to what I have to say anyway. So you're going to continue standing. With Brandon Williams starting at the point guard, attacking downhill, getting to the paint, you're going to have to stand for a lot shorter period of time. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. I like the look. I like the fight of that starting five, right? Again, Brandon Williams at the point guard, Max Christie at the 2, Coop at the 3, PJ at the 4, and Daniel Gafford once again starting at the 5. It's still AD is not going to play. In fact, you may have seen the report earlier today. Patrick Dumont is so heavily involved now with AD's injury management that the report was AD will not see the court again until Dumont has enough data on what calf strains have looked like in the past. I guess that's good, right? I stood on a soapbox yesterday and said we need to fix our medical staff problem. And I'm gonna issue a quick retraction on that. I stand by everything else I said yesterday. But Tim McMahon dove a little bit deeper on the report of the internal arguments between the front office and Anthony Davis about whether or not he should have returned Saturday against the Washington Wizards. The report was that pretty much AD was really pushing to return to the court, and Nico was really pushing AD to return to the court. But the medical staff refused to sign off on it. They refused to clear AD to play. Good. It doesn't need to be a discussion anymore, right? I don't want to see him on the court until he's 100%. I do not want to run the risk at all of any sort of extended injury or way worse, like an Achilles rupture. I don't think we need to go down that road, especially if we are trying to trade Anthony Davis anytime soon. Of course, it's all chit chat at this moment. We don't have anything official to go with, but teams around the league are already monitoring and having internal discussions about Anthony Davis, what they would offer for Anthony Davis and what they think the Mavericks would actually accept for Anthony Davis. Okay. I talked about it very briefly yesterday. Teams like the Houston Rockets are monitoring the Kyrie Irving situation. Here's my opinion on Kyrie Irving. You already heard me say it yesterday. I think he needs to stay for the rest of his career. I want him to fulfill his entire contract. I want him to retire a Maverick. Okay. Let me be very, very clear on that. However, if during the midst of all this drama, the midst of all of this ugliness that we have seen between the front office, the city of Dallas, the fan base, all of the above, If Kyrie Irving wants out, he has every right to ask out. Okay. I think, frankly, between Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, we could probably get more return for Kyrie, even coming off of an ACL injury, probably because the league puts a high value, a high dollar price tag on elite playmakers that can get the ball in the hoop. And Kyrie is that guy. Okay. He's not necessarily a traditional point guard. He is a guy you can run in isolation. He will go get you some buckets. Okay. That is something that comes at a premium in today's NBA. Less so big men that play defense that can't really shoot. I'm sorry, Anthony Davis. That's just kind of my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. If you were flying all over the place like you were when you were still playing in New Orleans, and even some flashes where you were still playing for the Lakers, I'd feel very, very differently about what kind of trade value we could get. But oft injured, going to be turning 33 later this season. I think it's time the Mavericks seriously take a look in the mirror and hey, we've already admitted a little bit of defeat with the firing of Nico Harrison. We've admitted defeat in the open letter that not Mark Cuban, that Patrick Dumont wrote to Mavs fans. Like, there was a little admission of defeat, right? Like, we had high expectations. What we have on the court is not meeting those expectations. It's time to make a change. Now, the first big change, a step in the right direction was starting to get Nico out of there. Let's get those vibes far away from our franchise. Now, in my humble opinion, as your Dallas Mavericks advisor, I think we need to seriously consider trading Anthony Davis like as soon as possible, both for our sake and for Anthony Davis's sake, right? If he doesn't feel like he needs to stick around in a toxic situation where the fan base is continuing to hate on him for reasons that he had zero control over, then yeah, I don't blame the guy for maybe like finding a title contender to go to and be a value add instantly, right? Like, as much as we complain about him not being on the court, when he is on the court and he is not the number one option, he is incredibly dangerous as both a defender, and if he's next to an elite playmaker and guard, he is an amazing number two, maybe even number three option, right? And he gets set up well whenever there's a real guard on the floor. Feed them the rock, okay? So I've said my piece on my opinion with Anthony Davis and what we should do. Now, I am not the GM. I will not pretend to have the same knowledge that basketball operations has, okay? I just have an iPhone and the Spotrac app to like cook up trades, okay? So let me tell you really quickly, between myself and Twitter and my favorite Mavs fan in the entire world, my dad, there's been a lot of chit chat about, hey, would it make sense to make a trade with Miami, right? Like we've seen how the salary matching would work. It would look something like Tyler Hero, Norm Powell, and Khalil Ware, and maybe a first-round draft pick in exchange for Anthony Davis. Sign me up. Sign me up. By the way, Tyler Hero is one of the worst defenders in the entire NBA. So the thing that makes this a little bit better for me is having Norm Powell as a defender in our backcourt, right? He built his reputation on being a great perimeter defender. Okay. Then he turned into a walking bucket, like literally the human microwave. When homie gets hot, he gets hot. And then let me briefly talk about Khalil Ware. He just has a really high ceiling. He's incredibly athletic. He's a rim protector. And guys, the thing that we've wanted Derek Lively to develop into, a big that can shoot threes, Khalil Ware has that in his bag. Now, I would not give up Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford at the expense of bringing in somebody like Khalil Ware, but it is a nice asset to have someone as young as he is, that is athletic, that can shoot the ball really, really well. If we wanted to keep our double big lineup type of philosophy, I think it could work really, really well. Again, if you have a big that can shoot. If we don't have that on the roster, which we currently don't, then I think we need to abandon that immediately. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Now, my second favorite trade scenario relates to the Chicago Bulls. And this one starts to make a lot of sense because Anthony Davis is from Chicago. From what I've seen from Chicago Bulls Twitter, they seem to be in favor of the idea. They have a lot of expiring contracts that they can offer to match the incoming, I believe, $54 million of Anthony Davis's contract. It would look something like Kobe White, Nikola Vucevic, Jalen Smith. By the way, 2 of those 3 contracts are expiring. So if we didn't decide to renew those contracts, we're now freeing up quite a bit of room to not even have to do like a full tear down and rebuild around Cooper Flagg. We would free up about 40 million, maybe 35 to 40 million of cap space where we could go sign a free agent to play next to our guy, which, by the way, earlier today, Mark Stein reported that the Mavericks have every intention to abandon like the 2 timelines type of approach and solely focus on the Cooper Flagg timeline. Once again, 2 thumbs up from your advisor here. We love to see it. Now, at this point, I'm rambling once again. Again, there's just so much going on in Mavs Twitter, so much going on in the front office. There's a lot of chit chat about what types of trades. But again, in the Chicago scenario, it's Anthony Davis gets sent over there. We bring in Nikola Vucevic, a big that can shoot, by the way. Love that. Kobe White, a combo guard, not necessarily a true point guard, but somebody that can go get you buckets. Jalen Smith, we're pretty stacked at the power forward position, so maybe we don't view him as a long-term asset. But again, expiring contract. But sounds like the Bulls also have a couple of first-round picks that they could offer. I don't think we get those 3 players and 2 first-round picks. I think it's like those the big name there. The one that I'm excited about would be the Kobe White. Nikola Vucevic could fit our offensive scheme that we've been trying to run pretty well if we stick with it. Jalen Smith, again, not excited about that, but I want as many stinking first-round picks as we could possibly get. So that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm looking at. My favorite 2 scenarios deal with Miami and Chicago. This turned into way more than just a Phoenix Suns versus Dallas Mavericks preview. Let me know what you think. Like, at this point, nobody knows what is even thinking possible when it comes to making trades in the NBA anymore. Like, players that used to be viewed as untouchable, I guess they're touchable now. Like what happened in February of this year kind of changed that trajectory. It's getting wild out there, y'all. So maybe we could go and make an offer to Charlotte for LaMelo Ball, like I've talked about before. But I actually like the Miami and Chicago trade ideas better because I like the draft capital. That's what I want. Give me more of that, please. Okay, but that's all I got for you today. Actually, no, it's not. I lied. Bold predictions. Again, the Mavericks are going to win tonight. I hope the energy is a lot better at the AAC tonight. I hope we don't hear any negative chants happening. I want to hear fans rooting for the players. I want the players to feel like they're supported and that they are loved by the fan base. That's what I want to see, whether or not we win or lose. But again, I think we'll win. I think we match up really well against the Phoenix Suns. They're dealing with injuries to Jalen Green. Dylan Brooks has missed a little bit of time, and he's returned from that injury, but something to monitor there. And I think we're going to see another big game from Coop because, again, we are putting all of our chips in the middle of the table around the Cooper Flagg timeline. So maybe we change some things about what we're putting on as far as offensive schemes are concerned. Now, wow, almost 22 minutes into this. I do apologize, guys. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when the next episode drops. We're going to continue cooking up trade ideas, and a lot of them, spoiler alert, are going to deal with Anthony Davis. I am not an AD hater, okay? You're not going to hear that coming out of my mouth. I don't think he fits the Cooper Flagg timeline quite as well as Nico Harrison thought he did, okay? So we're going to move past that and cook up some more trade ideas in coming episodes. And I can't wait to record tomorrow and give you exciting news about how much you know what we kicked against the Suns tonight. Y'all be good. See you around Twitter.